I'm Fleischauer. I was born in Leipzig, and then after the war came down, I moved to Berlin, and then I moved to LA, and now I'm back since 2008. I turn people into sculptures. I make art with sound, especially turning humans into instruments, and I do all this. I've been doing art ever since a kid, like most kids do, and then I just never stopped. So the beginning is very early, but when it turned into more, how my art was more formed into what it is now, like the core of it, I think it came as a teenager, where I got more ideas, and then over time it shaped into what it is now. I think a really important part of where I get my energies from the art I'm doing now is in 1991, I think it was. There was some street fights in die Mainzer Straße. It was all squads, and I was living in a squad somewhere else, so all the squads were sticking together. And I was, how old was I? 19, maybe 20. And I grew up in East Germany, so police was just like very scary, and I also had a lot of not so good experience. So I was very scared, and then I saw people throwing rocks at police, and I'm like, wow, that is possible. Maybe not the smartest, but it was very, the energy was very raw. And then at one point, there was about 1,000 people in that small street, and they all started banging rocks together and pipes, just making this big rhythm, and they all was shouting. And then there was the fire from the burning barricades, there was the danger from the police, they was shooting grenades at it, like smoke grenades and light grenades. And this energy was so intense and so raw, but it also makes you feel so alive that I really draw from this energy, but in a much more healthier way. Like, I think there is a need in us to be, to want to feel this, to feel alive, to feel every cell of their body, to not worry about anything except the intensity of this moment. And I think if we explore this in a healthy way, it really helps us grow as humans and also as individuals. So, and this is where I draw my energy, not necessarily from that street fight with the cops, but from the energy that awoken inside of me, like that beautiful rawness. It's from the inside, but not just my inside. I think there is a collective unconscious that connects us through this rawness. This is also because, well, like in that moment, it was so intense because there was a lot of people turning into this and releasing it simultaneously. So it was a form of communication of the subconscious. But of course, I am also inspired of what happens around me. I cannot block this out, and I like to be inspired by other things rather than just from that. So it's an energy that I always work with, but inspiration comes a lot of time from nature. It comes from social conflicts sometimes. I'm like a sponge. I take off what I feel around me, and I turn it into things. A bit similar to the other part. It is a nice way to open a door to an intense primal state of mind. As a teenager, like every little goth boy, girl, I did some cuttings on myself and on other people, but for me it was never a negative thing. Like, I didn't do it because I was frustrated and I needed a way out. I did it because I was fascinated. Like, I liked the way it felt, but also seeing the blood leaving my body really awoken something in me. And I think this was the original spark. But also, growing older, I studied, or I was more interested in shamanism and other primal rituals, and that really spoke to me. And my first hooks was in '98. I saw my friend at Burning Man. He did a suspension, and I saw this, I'm like, we need to talk. Huh? So a little later, I had a performance where I did a pulling, like hooks in my back, and I was pulling against him. He also had hooks in the back, and we had. Sound is very important to me, so I wanted to use it as an instrument, and I had an old metal drum, like a 55-gallon barrel, and I drilled some holes in it, and at the bottom was a hook. We had a chain connected, or actually two, one going to me, one to him, and at the top, the chain, like the barrel is this, then the chain would come out through the wall of the barrel, and it was connected at the bottom to a bungee cord, so I could pull, and the chain would scrape against the barrel and make a sound. And we had a microphone and an effect machine, and it was very old school, industrial noise kind of sound. And since we was pulling opposite side, the barrel started moving and making funny things. And now I forgot what else I wanted to say. Oh yeah, and then my first suspension was in 2001, because back then it was very hard to find people in the suspension community. So, and my friend moved back, he was in LA and he moved back to Texas. So I looked and looked, and eventually I'm just like, you know what? I know a piercer, she can pierce. I got my hooks, which was fishing hooks, and I just grinded them down and got them autoclaved. And somebody else knew a dungeon, and they had a hanging point, but they had no pulley, but we had a ladder, so we just did it ourselves, and I just slowly walked down the ladder. That was my first suspension. When I work, depending on what I do, usually at night I like to listen to more droney, ambient, no lyrics or anything, so nothing that distracts me but sets the mood for what I want to put into the piece. Sometimes, like I was making this piece called Bird of Death, so I was listening to sounds that would go along with it. The Amanagalas had a song like this, and some Neubauten songs. The inspiration for my sounds started early, especially like in the very early Anstürzende Neubauten, like FM Einheit, what he did with the sounds, or still does, making their own instruments. This is what really got me into making my own instruments, and then after a while, because most of my work is based on the human body, if it's close they wear, or if I turn people into instruments or people into sculptures, I really love to work with the human body. And so I used the same techniques, like this metal coils with the effect mics, but put them on bodies. So I got a lot of inspiration there, especially from the technical part. Lustmod, I really love how he does the drones. I think nobody does better drones than Lustmod. Diamanda Galas has always been a huge inspiration, not necessarily from her sound, even though I really love her sound, but from the energy she creates with her voice. And the early Psychic TV coil really got my brain working. Austin Osmar Speer, especially the chaos magic, but in artistic form, in the paintings. Coil, Clive Barker, like Hellraiser was a huge inspiration for me. Hooks. Well, maybe not new, but not from the beginning, but now, over the last 10-15 years since I found her, Berlinde de Brücke is really good. She does sculptural work, but it's undefined, and it always has a very organic, fleshy, dead look to it. Rudolf Schwarzkogler, he was part of the Vienna Aktionist movement. Stalak. He does sounds with the human body, and he does suspension. He was like one of the very first people who brought suspension to modern pop culture. It started with a project called Rituals of Transformation, and for this the medium was a human, and I did an interview with the person. The concept was to leave something behind and transform into something new. So I interviewed the person, and then I made a construct, and we did a ritual where the construct was involved. And with this one person, you can see it around the corner with the hanging doll. The person wanted to get rid of her anger, and she had a big scar, which was also related to her internal anger. So the concept I made is a piece that forces her neck back and her mouth open, so she can scream the anger out. So I love hooks, so of course we did it with hooks, that it's faced open this way and open this way. And that was the first spark. And then from there I got more fascinated with it. I think it's a good reflection on society, because we all have something within us that we want to scream out, but we suppress, because you don't just go around and scream. You shouldn't be angry, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to make images where the face is forced open. Blood is a strong... It is magic, it is magical. I don't think saying inspiration is enough. When we are born, we are covered in blood. The chances are when we die, we bleed. Life has and without blood we cannot live. So it is a very strong life form. And you can find it in every culture, no matter how far back. blood always has a holiness, and it is because it is the source of life, and we need it within us, otherwise we are dead. But if we leave it out a little bit once in a while, we become more alive, at least I do. And of course, anything magical with the body related and intense has somewhere in the back of the mind a sexual undertone. But it is more than this. Yeah. I think seriously, I started when I started start to work with hooks. Because when you do little cuttings on each other, you need to make sure it's clean equipment, but it's a given. But other than this, you don't cut too deep. But there was never a need to get deeper into it. But with suspensions, especially when I started suspension, I started working with more people. Then I also found people who are professional piercers, and a lot of them just gave me like, yeah, you're not gonna do this, you do it all wrong. I'm like, I'm a crazy performance artist, what do you want? But of course it is important. Luckily, I also had people like Steve Joyner who really understood what I'm doing, and it was like, and I'm like, I wanted to learn. But also, if you just scream at me, then I close down. But he's like, yeah, this and this is how it needs to be done, and show me. I like asking him to show me, and we worked many times together. He kind of trained me. And then at a later point, I also took at the BMX conference, I took some courses about cross-contamination and other things. So when I started working with hooks, it was necessary, or working with many people and blood, it was necessary for me to be more educated about the risks. And luckily, I found the right people to educate me. It really depends on the project. Like with Ode to Ecstasy, obviously this sound. A lot of times I do people. I like to get inspired by people. Like I met someone and we know we want to do art together because we have a similar vision. And then I not necessarily know what I will do to this person. And then inspiration just comes. Yeah, a lot of times I don't know what I'm doing until I'm doing it. Yes. I spent many hours. But I'm super happy with the way it looks now. Of course, there's always, there was some difficulties, but we made it work. Well, the first piece in here was 2010. I am afraid to count the time, otherwise I might get depression. But it started in 2010 and it's hundreds of hours. Just setting it up was 5 days, not including the preparation before I got here. Hopefully, the plan is that I'll show it all over the world. So we are working on a good promotion video for it. And I hopefully also do another exhibition not too long in Berlin, but I think it'll be at least another 2 years because I need some sleep. And what I'm gonna do is we're gonna do some video clips which I'm gonna upload. Also, I did some videos from behind the scenes, so we're gonna put this online as well.